episodes, I could not help but bring back the one and only Sarcastica. And that is how I first met Pat Flewwelling way back when this podcast began. And I made a promise to myself when I got towards the end of this era of the show that I would be bringing back guests from every era of the show. And Pat is one of my favorites, whether she realizes it or not. Now she's going to like blush here now for like a minute or two. But no, it's true. I could not help but bring you back, at least for this. This might be the only Twitch version you do, but we'll make this a good one.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. So like I was saying off the air, so when I get to 1,015, this show goes on the road. There's a couple of reasons for it. One, you got to keep changing the show up. You just have to. I mean, I've done 1,000 of these. I've done, like, when I hit that point, I'll be at 600 episodes on this format. So...
That's crazy, man. To think I knew you when.
Yeah.
Back when we were only audio and we sat at, I can't remember which hotel it was, but we were down there in the lobby. And you had your phone on.
That is the Delta Hotel, Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Back when you had a, let's see, you still had your little cart of books.
Bookstore. That's it. Yeah.
Right. That was back when you were doing it. I'm sad you're not doing it. I understand why you're not doing it. Yeah. I'm sad you're not doing it.
Me too.
Yeah.
But it was a format, like you said. You got to keep changing your format because you never know what's going to change, right?
Well, you have to change, right? You have to evolve. Like, so what I want to do with the show next is, and I got to get myself some context for it. I made a decision about 3 years ago when the pandemic happened that I was going to make a living off my creativity. It's been a journey. It has been a journey.
I like it.
Yeah. I have learned how to be an asshole, because you must in business. You have to understand. Like I think the biggest lesson I've learned in this game, I like writing in general, is a game of self-belief. That's what it is. And if the people that believe in it the most sometimes have to come off the most ruthless. I realize there's a trade-off there, because you're trying to protect what you love. And a lot of people don't understand what that actually entails. That entails sometimes that you got to look at, is the people you're working with, and I'm not saying this in a use and abuse, throw away kind of concept, but more like, are they as serious about this as you are? Because if they're not, then you can root for them. Like, you can seriously root for them.
Absolutely. But you can also do that. You don't necessarily need to be an a-hole doing that. You can still... You can defend yourself. You can still defend your own interests.
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely. But sometimes okay, how is it? I'm not saying go be an asshole first. Like that's I'm not saying that.
That's not the career advice that we're giving.
No. But you do need to be, hold on a second here. You do need to be ruthless a little bit. You have to be a little bit, because if you're not, because here's the thing, this is the biggest thing I learned. I learned this right at the beginning.
Yeah.
This is a game. This is a game of money and time, right? This is a game of money and time. So what I've learned is, I understand why people charge X amount of dollars now. Mm-hmm. It saves time because what it separates is the people who seriously want to do it versus the people that don't. And that sounds kind of cruel, but the truth of the matter is, again, some clients I've dealt with have no problem putting money in if it saves them time, right? Some clients struggle. Like, I've definitely been in this case where I've been struggling to pay, but again, I'm trying to invest in my time, not necessarily in my money right now. And that's the thing. That's the real game. You can always make money. You can't always get your time back. So what I have found in this, and again, this is where when I say ruthless, I don't necessarily mean mean-spirited, mean cruel, be an asshole, none of that stuff. It's basically,
what I was going to ask you, because for me, when I hear the word ruthless, it's there's two halves to that. There's the self-defense part, but then there's also attacking other people or taking away from other people.
Well, no, attacking people you never do. Like, I don't necessarily believe, like, you don't have to do it, but you have to make a decision to like this is the biggest thing. I've had to learn not to necessarily wait for anybody.
This
because
is true.
Yeah, right. This is the thing, and that's the real crux of the matter. Are the people you dealing with, do they care about your time? Because if they don't, then you need to get rid of them.
As long as you're respecting their time as well.
Absolutely. No. It goes both ways. Like here's the thing. It goes both ways. You can't ask for something you're not willing to give yourself. But at the same time, like it's one of those. I just truly believe people, as a general rule of thumb, do always what they want to do. So, right, as a general rule of thumb. So I observe people closely, and the one thing I've learned in this life is people. It's about where do people value putting their time into. That's what they truly care about.
That's
and sometimes
this year, let me tell you.
Yeah, no, but it's the truest lesson of all. And once you understand it, it's easy to understand it, and it's actually, I find, easier to forgive it once you get the concept. But in the process, it can be a bitch to go through, be the victim of that. I've been there, and I empathize with whatever it is you're going through at this moment in time. But that's the big lesson I've learned in this. Like, the biggest lesson I've learned, I observe where people put their time into, because it doesn't matter how much money they have. It doesn't matter what their situation is. People will always find the time to invest in what they want to. So I look where they put their time in, and that is what they are invested in. And that's the bottom line.
Speaking of, have you seen where I've been putting my time?
I've seen it. You've been a blacksmith for the last little bit.
It's all part of the research. That's what I'm telling myself. I've learned so many little things, so valuable, in weird and wonderful ways. Like the spinning of the yarn, the processing of fleece, learning how to knit and crochet, blacksmithing. My gosh, so many things I can use in other little projects here and there, and so many little life lessons too. Like with the blacksmithing, right? You'd think the easy one is strike while the iron is hot. But you never really completely grasp that until you're actually holding a hot piece of iron. And as it cools, it gets more stubborn.
Yes, it does.
You can't use it anymore. But if you have it too hot, it melts off. And then you have to start over again. So it's really interesting how you get to live things that we take for granted in some ways.
Absolutely. No, I don't know. Have you seen me? Hold on. Let's see if I got an example of it here somewhere. This one.
I'm watching your artwork.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I saw you. You posted something not too long ago. There was a young lady, and you said you.
I missed it. Yes, I do. Did you see it? That originally was going to be Batman, but then I screwed up the ear, so something terrible. I decided to do something else.
It's not an error if you call it art.
Well, I don't see. Here's the thing. I'm having fun with it. Like that's the honest truth of the matter is I'm having fun with it. So for me, it's like when I draw, the biggest lesson it taught me is not to worry about mistakes. That's the thing. Like, mistakes are part of the art. Right? Truthfully, like, it's our imperfections, and you'll probably appreciate this as a blacksmith too, right? It's the imperfections in the material that make the material what it is. And that is what makes it interesting, because otherwise it would be the exact same thing every single time, and that would be boring as fuck. It would just really, really would be. You can swear on my podcast about it.
Well, yeah. It's kind of funny. There's two answers to that too. There's the one side, you have to be careful with the material and what you are doing. There are some things that, especially with blacksmithing, if you have a failure in it, it could make it structurally unsound. So don't make it bad stairs.
No.
But to your other point about how errors and little mistakes make something interesting, I had originally started to make this very fancy toilet paper holder. Okay, it would be like you have a roll up here, but you could slide a whole stack of them down the spout. Well, I screwed it up. So we could have a roll of toilet paper, but it wouldn't turn around the corner. So now it's a failed toilet paper holder, but it is a very successful conversation starter.
It is. It is. I toilet paper roller. You know what you also could do? You could put like a little roll of carpet in there on it, and now you have a cat scratcher.
That's a good point. I was thinking of just putting some hand towels and leaving it downstairs in the guest bathroom. You know.
Hey, why not? You made it. It's kind of cool when you make it, right?
It's still functional, just not the function that it was originally designed for.
Just remember, chocolate chip cookies and stick-it notes were not things that were intended to be functioned as they were either. They were accidents, and good comes from it.
Or as I explained to somebody else, we're in my day job, I do a lot of database work. I make tools for people to use, right? And we just launched a massive project, but it's a pilot. So it has to have little errors in it. And I explained to somebody that bugs are an important part of ecosystem. And I thought about that a little bit more. It's very true. How else do we learn? If we didn't have those little bugs, what are we going to learn to improve?
Well, perfection is something I don't shoot for. I shoot for professional, not perfect. Professional. And there's a difference, right?
I will never have anything perfect, but it'll be pretty darn close if I can make it.
I don't see. I don't. Is it good enough? Is kind of where I'm at. I'm at it with it, right? Can I make it the best I possibly can be? Is it as good as I can make it? If the answer is yes, I'm good with that. I'm no longer the concept of the perfect idea. I realize it stops people from making new things. Yeah, it does. So I'd rather make 1,000 screw ups, because here's the thing: I'm going to get better by default making those 1,000 screw ups because I'm doing it. Right. And because I'm doing
works in art. Absolutely. 100%. I agree with you from an art perspective. Sometimes the corporate world is maybe not quite so forgiving.
I've worked in the corporate world a little bit. You'd be surprised what you could do with that. Right. They have certain expectations, and you have to fulfill those expectations. But if you fulfill it,
something that is simple and easy and is an elegant solution. Sometimes I don't quite make it there, but that's the goal that I aim for. That's the way that I attack art as well.
Yeah, well, it's not a bad way to attack art. It's actually good. Like if you like some of the best. Ironically enough, I have a book somewhere in my storage locker right now, and it's got all of these famous advertising like things and these billboards made by this one guy. And it's a great little lesson about using talent. But what I really love about all the billboards he's talking about is essentially they were designed to solve problems. That's what they were designed to do. And these billboards again, solving a problem, getting a message out there. They when you look at a campaign, what it actually is like, okay, we got this big project and we want to tell people about it. How can we do it in a way that's fun and can get people's attention? That's a problem you're solving. It's a legitimate one, right? So a lot of times when you look at a commercial, that's what they're trying to do. Sometimes the commercial can actually transcend into some kind of art, depending on what it is. And billboards have done that a few times. And when you look at art as a problem-solving tool, sometimes the most artistic things in the world come from that mentality, because again, maybe wasn't the goal, but it was a byproduct. But you know what? Sometimes byproducts are better than what you intend. You know.
Sometimes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I have a really interesting towel hanger now. Yeah.
You have a cat scratcher. I still say the amazing cat scratcher.
Well, how did you figure that part out?
Yeah, you figure that out. So do you keep in touch with anybody?
In what way? Like the writer crew?
Yeah, any of the writer crew. Do you keep in touch with any of them? I'm assuming Ellen, because Ellen and you are Arctic as Thieves. But besides that, anybody?
Mostly on Facebook. It's been really hard to keep tabs on people, especially with work being as crazy it has been. If it wasn't for Facebook, I would probably lose entire track of them. But I certainly think about them all the time, especially my friends out there in Calgary. Fellow writers, editors, publishers, they all seem to be out there. I was planning on going out there for the last When Words Collide. I even had my ticket. I have to give up my ticket because I can't afford the flight. So there was a couple of little things that came up in January, February. Can't make the flight. So I'm going to miss that last When Words Collide.
Yeah, I'm going to be there very briefly in that one. I'm going, at least officially, and unofficial. I'm doing I pitched 2 panels for it. One is about TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a panel. I've already gotten one person kind of to say yes on it. I pitched them both to Randy. He said yes. The other one is I've done this talk already. It's called the Freelance Mindset, right? And it's I did this there's an online convention on Discord. Discord's a really cool neat little place. Some of the most passionate fans in the world are there. So there's a lot of writers there. So one of the things I've talked about, because I haven't quite gotten to the living part, but I have seen 4 figures on a regular basis doing this. So that's not bad. That's not bad,
place
right?
To start.
Yeah. Well, again, it's the mindset too. It's all about the mindset. And I talk to people about it, and it's like this again. Self-belief is everything in this game, and a lot of people will say no. It's like, no, it is. If you don't think it's possible to reach a certain goal, you'll never get there. That's just how it goes. I have a set amount in my head I'd like to make per month doing what I'm doing, right? And I would like to make that. There's a bit of a goal there, but I don't think it's unrealistic. And then I still got my books I'm doing and stuff I've released since, and I'm going to try to make, and I'm going to make more of an effort to make that also more profitable too, because I again, it's about what you invest. Again, going back to something I said at the beginning, where do you put your time, right? That's what it comes down to.
Tell me about this 2-country initiative that you're going to be doing.
So I'm going to be taking the show legitimately on the road. I have met in so the pandemic was overall a good thing for me. When I started the pandemic, I had 800 followers on Facebook. I had like 2,000 followers on Twitter, and I had nothing on LinkedIn. I have nearly quadrupled my following on Facebook. I've gained a third more followers on Twitter. I have a YouTube channel. I have a Twitch. I've carved a small little niche in the universe for myself, and I've met some amazing people along the way. So, and it comes down to 2 parts. I can't seem to connect with anybody here. The one thing about the Calgary community that I have noticed, at least with me, it's been nigh impossible to actually meet any of them other than a handful of them. So I do think that what that tells me is that the communities have kind of fractured a little bit because of all the time apart, or maybe it's just me. It's entirely a possibility. It's just me. I don't know. What I do know is I haven't been able to connect here. And I've connected to so many people in so many other places. So why not go meet all these people in all these places, whether it's Marissa Mayer in Tacoma, Washington, whether it's a heavy metal band in Denver, Colorado, whether it's Lucy Leitner, who has an ice cream place under some train tracks in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, right?
Cool.
Yeah, right. Life, again, the other thing too, and I'm very like, I was conscious of this before the pandemic with my own personal experience going through my own personal apocalypse. But we think we have all the time in the world to catch up with everybody and meet everybody. We don't. I figured this out a long time ago. We only get to talk to people so many times. Now, some it's more, some it's less. But when you sit there and think about it, we only get to talk and interact with each other a finite amount of times. So how precious was it's a big thought, right?
Yeah, you got to make it count. Strike while the iron is hot.
Exactly. So if I cannot find the connections and the adventures I want to here, I will find them elsewhere. And that's it. Like, again, it has been, that's how it's been. And that's been my experience back here. I don't hate it exactly. My side gig right now is I work at the Saddle Dome. I'm actually in the Calgary arena. I get to go to all the events there. And there's some good things, but the stuff I didn't come back to Calgary or anywhere like that just to go get a job. I can do that anywhere. I'm too old for that shit.
You can come out here to Toronto. There's a few jobs here.
I've never liked Toronto. Like,
what's wrong with Toronto? Come on, it's the center of the universe or something.
Okay. You're gonna hear. I'm gonna say something to you that's gonna shock you. So
I'm not from Toronto, so you can go.
I think this will still shock you because all right. I think this, especially because you are from Toronto.
I am not from Toronto, but anyhow,
close enough, right? Close enough. I have felt calmer and safer in Detroit than I have in Toronto.
You know, anytime anybody ever mentions the city Detroit, the only thing I think about is RoboCop.
Yep.
That's all I got in my head.
So, all, you know what? Honestly,
you are going to the wrong parts of Toronto.
No, it's the fact that Toronto has. This is the difference between the two cities. Don't get me wrong. There are neighborhoods in Detroit, and I know damn well I walk into them, I wouldn't walk out, and I know it. Toronto does not have that, but what Toronto does come with, and I've noticed this, there's like a little bit of an undercurrent of hostility in the city. Almost you can just feel it all the time you're there. And it just hits you a certain way for after a while. It just drives me up the wall. I don't mind visiting Toronto, but living there, no, I couldn't do it because what would happen is I would be then the quote unquote learning how to be an asshole would probably go into overdrive there, and I wouldn't like the person I'd become there. Right? That's just me. Like this is my own experience in Toronto. Now there are cities I despise more than Toronto, like LA. Like I can't stand.
Never been, so I can't really judge. But I think Ellen would probably agree with you. About all of that. She spent a full year living downtown Toronto and probably would be agreeing with you most wholeheartedly.
Yeah, no. Is she back? Where's she now?
She's in Calgary now.
Oh wow, I did not know that. I did not know that. I'll have to go see her. Hi, Alan. I have to go see it. No, it's just Toronto has a certain hostility to it that I did not. I did not. How do I put this? You just until you live there, until you live there and you experience it, it's hard. Detroit does not have it, and for all the violence there is in some parts of that city, Detroit does not have that hostility, and that is something. And I know people listening to this will be like, "You're shit." No, I'm not. Like you'll go through Detroit and it'll be chill in comparison. Now there are some places again. I would not recommend being in there for too long. There are neighborhoods like that, but suburbs are suburbs, folks, and the suburbs of Detroit are chiller there than there are in Toronto. And it just again, it's a personal experience.
You're not going far enough out to the suburbs, then. My goodness, I gotta show you the calm places. We'll take you up and down the Don Valley. Yeah,
that's not.
Don Valley is wonderful if you know where to go.
Can be. There's some pretty spots there. There's some pretty spots there. Yeah, I thought you were going to say something like Ajax because there's nothing there.
I'm going to take it to Ajax. Ajax is wonderful for what it is. Yeah, I wouldn't even take you to Oshawa unless it was sunny.
Please don't. I've lived there. No, it's one of those.
You've lived in Ajax or you've lived in Oshawa?
Oshawa and Whitby, both.
Same. You got to know where to go.
Oh, it's just, but also just some places don't fit you. Like some places just don't.
This is true.
Right. And it sounds like for you, you're where you need to be. And when you are where you need to be, things have a tendency to kind of work out. It's just how it goes. Some people, that's not the case, right? Some people, it's a struggle. It's when me in Calgary 4 years ago. Yeah, 4 years ago. Wow. Time flies. 4 years ago, Calgary was a really good place for me. Right. Well, it wasn't even I left before the pandemic because again, it was the decision at the time was I needed a change. I'd been there for 10 years. I accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish there. Kind of felt like I'd done everything I could do in Calgary, right, for what I wanted to do. And there's some things I kind of wanted to try. So I figured I'd go to Vancouver to get into the movie scene there, kind of try some stuff out there. And when I was just about ready to do it, because I had started taking the courses for it, I got some first aid training. I was doing some things I had made the decision to quit my job pretty much before I even like went to Vancouver. I even made that decision. I also just knew going like how Vancouver worked and operated, that it kind of goes under its own. Vancouver is the weirdest city I've ever lived in. I will give it that. It is the weirdest
It
city.
has many personalities.
It does. Oh, it really, really does. It is. And sometimes it happens in the same moment and you just like, what the hell happened here? Right. But for all of that, Vancouver, I was like, you know what? I made a decision. I needed to do a change. So I was saving up all my money, getting myself into a position so I could leap into the movie industry, give it an honest attempt. And if it didn't work out, that would have been fine. Like that would have been fine. But it was again, it's that. So since we've last talked, I don't know. I don't know. If you know, I went from 8 rules to 10 rules to success. The eighth rule was stay uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The 9th rule is detach from all outcomes.
Okay.
And the 10th rule is when in doubt, have fun.
I can also get behind that too.
Yeah. So for me, going to Vancouver was about going beyond my comfort zone. I kind of feel like ever since I've made the decision to go beyond the comfort zone, that's all I've done. But I mean, it's necessary because you have to make a decision at some point in your life. Like, is this who you want to be? Is this what you want? Is this what's going to make you happy? Right? You got to make that decision. I could have stayed in Calgary and I could have done what I've always done, but I never would have been fully happy doing it. And right, I was hoping coming back here while I took care of what little things I had left to take care of, also get to connect to some of the people I hadn't seen in a few years and say, hey, I missed you and I love you. Because really, like I said, you only have a finite amount of times with people. So you let them know you do appreciate and you love them.
Got to make them count.
That's right.
Count. Yeah.
It's one of the reasons I brought you on here. So, I mean, yeah, it's one of the reasons I brought you on here.
By the way, if you do want to continue on being uncomfortable, can I highly recommend blacksmithing? Especially first thing in the morning in February. Let me tell you, before those forges are fired up, it is cold. You're standing for 8 hours. You're hammering things. It's a great way of being uncomfortable. But
it can be. I've done the cold thing though. So when I worked at Purelator, I was in these trailers. Right now, minus 40-degree weather.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
I don't want to do that again. I'm not gonna lie.
No, thank you. No.
But you sound like you did that for like, it sounded like you did that for like
a couple of days. Well, it was only cold when we were standing around listening. Once we had the fires going and once we were actually actively hammering things, it was nice and toasty.
Yeah. No, and you probably even if once you got to a certain point, you didn't even feel anything anymore. You kind of got into the groove for a little while. There's a point in that, and then probably there's a point later in the day where that all catches up to you.
Well, it pretty much stayed with me all day, but yes, as soon as I stopped, boy, did it catch up.
Yeah.
But, I think if I had been doing it for 2-3 weeks, I think I would have been in that mode. Yeah. But this is the beautiful thing about having taken the blacksmith course is I had to push through. Every single minute I had to push through because it's all different skills. These hands are meant for typing and spinning the yarn. They are not meant for holding things. One of the things that we had to do was hammer things toward ourselves. So here I am holding onto a piece of iron and I've got this hammer. What happens with the thing if you hit it on the end?
Pink.
It goes over there. So I had no grip strength whatsoever. I had to learn that kind of a skill at the same time. At any point, I could have given up and no one would have blamed me. But push through. Learn the skill. Learn different ways of holding it. Use leverage and basically used the whole side of my body as an extra hand just trying to hold things in place. It was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
But so painful.
No. But probably I don't know how much experience you have doing that kind of physical labor, but there's something satisfying about that kind of pain.
zero experience, but yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Yeah. There's something satisfying about it, because when you put a legitimately good, what I would call honest work
I
into
was just going to
something.
say the word honest. Yeah,
No, it's
that's what
honest work. It's what it is. And there's something about that feels like, honestly, that's the one
real.
thing I do miss from the day job. I did was the physicality of it. I miss it. So I made it kind of like a promise to myself that I wanted to wait until after the New Year's resolution is, I'm going to go get in shape at the gym, because we all know how that works for so many people, right? But I'm going to be looking for a gym at like that can be in various places. So I can be like a membership of a gym that can kind of be anywhere, either in this country or in both countries.
YMCA, that's the way you want to go. You can go anywhere in North America.
Yeah, and that's what I'll do. And then
Yeah.
I'll swim and or lift weights, because I enjoy both. And
the Y is definitely the place to go then. It's I was a member of the Y for a number of years. Loved it because exactly that. When I was in Montreal, there were 3 different gyms that I could go to. When I traveled to Toronto for a visit, there were at least 3 within walking distance. So I totally would go for that. It's also one of the most supportive communities as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I remember one day I was going in and I got stuck behind a rather elderly gentleman on the track. And my initial impulse is to complain about that. Next thing I know, there's a middle-aged guy coming up right beside me to stand and walk beside the old guy. And he's like, come on, you can do it, you can do it. And next thing I know, there's a younger guy coming up as well. 3 generations of one family all supporting each other to get their health up to date, right? And it was a beautiful community. No matter where you went, it didn't matter who you were, what social status you had. You didn't have to wear any frou-frou gym equipment. You just make sure that you're compliant with the dress code. Make sure you're wearing a shirt and preferably something around your center of mass as well. As long as you did that, as long as you were compliant, no one cared who you were or what you looked like.
Yep.
Everyone supported you. So 100% go with the YMCA. And they have decent prices too.
Sorry, can you repeat that last part?
Decent prices.
Yes. Yeah, like I said, that's what I'm going to be looking at doing. The other crazy thing I may do, I haven't decided if I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this while I'm on the road or not. I might wait until after that part of my life is done. I might even decide to go and try actually get into a cage and actually do an MMA fight.
Well, you're not going to lose anything by learning how to do it.
Exactly. And my goal isn't to be into like become an ultimate fighter. It's not the goal. It's a personal challenge at this point, right? It's a personal challenge.
I mean, even if you only learn some of the basics, even if you never actually spar, you're still going to learn so much, and you're still going to get so much physical benefit from it. So yeah, why not?
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to going in there and seeing someone half my age. Like, yeah, like there's a term on the part is cooking the beans. So then they will do the jujitsu part of it, where thing is, if you wear a body out long enough, you'll be able to lock someone into any hold you want. Like, there's a kind of like a grinding process to it. They call it cooking the beans. And when you're cooked, you're done, and they can do whatever they want with you. So everybody gets it. So I'm looking forward to like legitimately getting my ass kicked in like a constructive way for about like a year and a half. No, it's about the hardest thing about me currently right now is deciding what I want to do more first, right? Because again, I feel like, and I feel like there is no tomorrow. You know what I mean? And in a weird like sense, because it's like there is only now. I'm not guaranteed anything else. What's important to me, right? And that might sound like a very simplistic way of looking at it, but yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing.
Foundational, not simplistic.
Yeah.
Get back to it.
I don't mind if it's simple. I think simple is actually one of the most complex things. It's going to sound like an oxymoron, but breaking things down to a simpler term is sometimes one of the most complex things you can do, right? Because it's understanding it's having a clear vision of what you want. right? Or having a clear vision, and breaking that down to something simple really helps with that.
So you don't know what you want to be when you grow up?
No, I'm doing exactly what I want to be when I grow up. I'm a writer. That I am a storyteller that tells stories and lets people tell theirs. I do exactly what I want to be. I have done that. I've already done. I do that.
I have a feeling that you're going to have just as many between adventures as adventures. You go out, you know what your next adventure is going to be, but along the way, I think there's going to be some interesting things that will happen.
I agree.
Off the side of the road, at a rest stop, at whatever. There's going to be little things that will pop up on your adventure that I think you're going to enjoy just as much.
Absolutely. I'll tell you a fun thing. A fun Windsor story. So the bus service there is by reputation terrible, right?
Where? Sorry.
Windsor is gut, right? However, I will say this: I will never say anything really bad about the Windsor bus drivers ever, because so one night I was actually doing a temp job in Windsor. When I went back there, I was actually a temp at Purelator for like about 6 weeks. It was funny because I knew more about the job than they did, and I didn't panic because I've worked at all these big giant hubs for years. So all the stuff they were panicking about, I'm just like, right. I didn't worry about it because it's not a big deal. I know how I know the job. I've done the job for so long that there's nothing. So the new guy's trying to get me to hustle, it's almost like comical to me, right? right. So because again, I know what I'm doing more than he does. But the thing is, so one night I'm going home, and so the buses stop at like really early time. But it just so happened that on the way home, they had a bus that was kind of parked, right? Kind of just parked. And I went and asked, went to the bus. There's a bus station, the actual bus station's right there. So I go and ask, is the bus going on or not? Like, no, it's done, but it is on. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take you home. I actually got a one-person bus trip from where I was working all the way home. Like they actually took me. No question. There was no questions asked. It was a really, really cool experience, and it just didn't. And it was not something I planned or like. Yeah, I want the out of the blue, and like I want to go off the beaten trail and see where things lead, because that's the fun stuff. That's the real fun stuff.
Yeah. I support that. I think you're going to have a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. I suddenly became a rock star. How did that happen? Right. But I still got books to do. I still got stuff I want to do with Ellen. I kind of feel bad because for the last few years I haven't had a stable kind of like income thing. So it's just like I'm like the worst client ever right now, and I'm trying to change that. right. And I'm trying to change that. I mean, one thing I do well is I do communicate. Like there's no illusions on anybody's side one way or the other about what's going on. So, but you did remind me I do need to see Ellen before I disappear off into the wilderness, because honestly, she's great and deserves the best. Like honestly, she really, really does. I'm hoping she's happier in Calgary than she was in Toronto. It sounds like that was the case.
I think she's very happy to get out of Toronto, but yes, I definitely agree with you. She was one of my favorite humans in the world.
Yeah, one of my favorite conversations too. So I had somebody else from that era. Are you writing right now? Or have you done any writing?
I am not. So between the issues that I had that unfortunately stopped me from going to conventions back in 2019, right before the pandemic, and then with the pandemic, I could not write. I couldn't even read fiction. I'm finally starting to getting back into reading the fiction. It's been nonfiction nonstop. I'm absolutely loving my lectures. I listen to audiobooks nonstop. History, philosophy, science, you name it.
Yeah.
Found a new love. Since then, I've been learning how to crochet and knit and weave, spin yarn, play the guitar again, for goodness sake, painting, sketching, blacksmithing. All of these other wonderful things, but that's where my creative energy has gone to. So I still have a project in progress, but it's a very, very slow project and slow progress. But the interesting thing is all of the stuff that I'm doing on the side feeds that plot. Right? It's probably going to be about, you're going to love this. It's probably going to end up being about 5 books long. But it will be a closed set. And the principal character is a middle-aged woman who is sent on a quest. So, but worse than that, she gets saddled with this young punk, this other girl who thinks she is absolute hot snot. Unfortunately, she is also hot snot. So she's got the skills to back up her arrogance, but it's just like, you got this middle-aged woman who's got problems of her own, and she's got this young punk to deal with. It's probably going to be set in a kind of a Renaissance medieval time frame. But so many cool things are coming out of it. There's the cultural change from going from like Middle Age, Dark Age kind of mentalities, religion, technology, into this just starting to creep into this new world, this new way of looking at things, new technologies. And these 2 main characters learn a lot, but they also invent and innovate at the same time. They're using magic in new ways. They're using new technologies from different people around their continent, synthesizing it all together and making something net new. And it's really fun. And also, not only do we get to see the main character's mother, so you've got this middle-aged woman, but also her mother, but you also get to see her grandmother, who is like, she is the godfather of crime. She literally is the underground movement. A little old great-grandmotherly person in dark and horrible medieval kind of town. I can see it all, it's just not on paper yet. So that's where I'm at.
So I'll tell you what I've been working on. One series I'm doing right now is an Alice in Wonderland Greek mythology mashup.
I was going to ask about where you're at with Alice, yes.
So Alice is currently entering the House of Fate, which is also through the Looking Glass.
Cool.
I'm merging both of those because, so like I said, my big revelation, I've said this many times on the podcast, is that Alice and Pandora are the same story.
Alice and
Pandora are the same story. Yeah, they're the same story. So I decided that was my connection. And if I hadn't met that girl at the bar, I never would have figured it out. Right. But see, good things that do come from side quests sometimes. But that's so Alice, and she has a certain Cheshire friend in her head that comes to a head in book 2. And then book 3.
Nice. And
then book 3, waking up sometimes is the hardest thing to do. And that's all I'm going to say about book 3. And that's the last book of that series. And then so another one I'm doing my version of the Parker series. Have you ever heard of the Richard Matheson's Parker novels?
Oh, I don't think I have.
Have you ever seen Payback with Mel Gibson? Have you ever seen Parker by Jason Statham?
Nope.
Okay. So the idea is this is an old school crime novel. It's an old school crime novel. Parker is a thug. He is a criminal, but he has a code of honor. He does things a certain way. He doesn't hurt anybody. He doesn't have to. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't do anything. He gives his word. He keeps it. He's got a he has a code of honor, even though he's a bit of a gangster, right? So, one of the more famous movies out there is that he gets owed money from this job he did with them, and they stiffed and they try to kill him. So he comes back for basically revenge. That is Mel Gibson's Payback movie in a nutshell. That's based off the books, one of the Parker books. I came up with my own version of that, but I took it a step further. I asked myself this question: what is a good person?
That's a complex question.
It's a very complex question. And but ultimately what I realize is that comes down, not completely, but fundamentally, it's your integrity. Because if you don't stand for something, you can't, if you have no ability to stand for anything, you won't fight for anything. You won't believe in anything. You won't do anything.
Yeah,
right?
I can see that.
Yeah. So
as long as you are willing to learn and change your stuck up ways if you need to.
Well, that goes. Remember when I said the ninth rule: detaching from all outcomes.
Well, what I mean is, like, if you really 100% stand for X, which is to support this leader that you've been following forever and ever, and you find out that leader is no good, what do?
Well,
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can still be good by continuing to live up to your standards, loyalty at all costs, but you can also be a good person by changing yourself, seeing that what you are or what you're doing is not right.
well, actually, I'm going to go where along the thought process I was going down, because actually this ties into it. We're all guilty of this on some level. Now, we all have ideas on how we think the world works, right? And we all attach ourselves to these ideas, whether we realize it or not, right? We all do it. Now, here's the thing: when you're confronted with now, if you're really attached, the more attached you are to this idea, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that we'll go with something really simple. Instead of you believing that the sky is blue, it's really purple. But you're so attached to the idea that the sky is blue, it doesn't really matter what I say to try to convince you. You're going to resist me every inch of the way, right? You are, because you're attached to that idea. This is just, we all do this on some level. The trick is, right? The trick on that, especially ideas we're attached to, not necessarily ideas we're not attached to, but ideas we're attached to. It's really hard for us to fundamentally change those ideas. And that's when, I think that is when you find out what kind of person you really are. Because if you can't say the leader thing you just talked about, okay? If the leader is, let's just say the leader is a scumbag, a complete scumbag, right? And you are loyal to this person. Well, especially the first question is, let's say you've been loyal to this person for a very long time. Let's say 5, 6, 7 years. We'll just say that we'll go ahead and that's an even number, right? Say 7 years. They've been great to you. They've been absolutely wonderful to you. It's going to be really hard for you to look at that person as a scumbag, no matter what, because your experience with them has been nothing but positive.
Sure.
Right? So if someone's going to come to you with this idea that this person is a terrible person, you're going to be incredibly resistant to it. Even sometimes in the face of some evidence, like there might be like red flags, but you might just dismiss them as, something that, no one's perfect. Maybe they just had a bad day that day. Like they're like we do, like, again, and every human being does this on some level with whatever ideals we have. Sure. Right? So the only real way to change is having the self-awareness to realize what you're doing. But the only way to do that is you have to be willing to detach from the ideas you have. And you have to be even aware that you are attached to those ideas to begin with. And that is a very hard thing for any of us to do, right? Especially, and the longer we go down a certain path, right, the harder that is to change. Not impossible, but again, it does add up.
It takes discipline. It takes self-awareness and
willingness to
a certain kind of goodness.
It takes, very hard. That might be the hardest kind of goodness. Can you look at the truth honestly and just and be able to walk away from an idea you've held your whole life?
It gets easier with practice.
What?
It gets easier with practice.
Yeah. The more attached, the harder it is. That's something you're right. The more attached you are, the harder.
The small stuff, you can work your way up. It's just like lifting weights.
To a point. I'm like I said, I'm 41, so I'm still at that. I wouldn't say I'm exactly as malleable as I was when I was 20, but I'm still open to the possibility of change. I can see myself coming to a age of cantankerousness where I'd be like, you know what, I'm happy with this, right? And I've seen that too. We all do that too a little bit, and I think some of that's fun. Some of that can be a lot of fun. Some of that. But again, exploring the idea of what is a good person, right? What is a good person? like those are I think the real questions, right? Like, how much can you change, right? Where maybe you can't change so easily, right? That I think is a very interesting idea, but doing that in kind of like a pulpy concept, I think is a lot of fun.
I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Lancelot, not Lancelot. Percival's my first villain. The Knights of the Round are completely corrupt. They're completely been corrupted. In this world, Morgan Le Fay wins, and she corrupts all the knights in different ways. Percival is like an evil genie.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So he's an evil genie. I'm having fun with. I'm having fun. I told. I'm trying to make him have as punchable a face as possible. You want to punch him when you meet him, because he's that kind of douchebag. But that's just like that innocent, pure. Nah, he's just a piece of shit. Like, he's just a total piece of shit, and it's fun to write him. So
you're gonna have to bleep those out, man.
Nah, I don't. Yeah, this is an explicit podcast for a reason. I just I gotta be me. And the thing is, if I can be I can be professional, but on my own show, it's just like
you can do whatever you want. It's your show.
Exactly. I only really have 2 rules. Don't be a bigot. If you're gonna be a dick, be an entertaining one.
Getting back to Alice, and then I do kind of have to run because I've got to let my dog out.
Nope.
Have you read the book Mythos by Stephen Fry?
I have not read Mythos by Stephen Fry.
I think you would enjoy it a great deal.
Okay.
He did 3 books. I've read all 3 of them now. Mythos, Heroes, and Troy. I actually enjoyed Mythos the best out of all 3 of them. He brings Greek mythology to life. Like, it is hilarious in spots. But one of the things he talks about is Pandora. And just the way he phrased it kind of made me really think about it. You know, with the opening of the box and the demons fly out. He said the last demon that was still in the box was hope. I thought about that a lot. How can hope be a demon? I'm going to let you sit and think on that
I had no, because see, I already know the answer to this. Because you cannot have true despair without a little bit of hope. Hope will push.
How is it a demon?
What?
How is hope a demon?
Because hope can push you forward. See, if I think I can't accomplish anything, if I think I can't accomplish anything because I think it's futile, I'm not going to move. But if I have hope that I can change something, I'm going to move forward, even if it is futile. So, I mean, if you look at it like that, hope can be the greatest trickster of all, because he may not be able to change a thing. Now, on a personal note, I tend to think doing this like I've been doing it. One of the things I've come to realize is that the results I'm looking for almost never happen. But sometimes it's better. Sometimes it's worse. Sometimes right. It goes both ways. So what I realized is in the process of change, in the process of changing or trying to change or going out there and doing things, I have discovered that in itself changes things, right? But that in itself does, whether people like that whether people realize it or not. I had a person. I wrote a little rant on cynicism because I think cynicism is the most useless thing in the world. So one of the most cynical people I know responded to it,
as they do.
Well, my favorite part about that is I left her speechless because she made a point. It's like sometimes there's in futility, like go, you work like this was the first thing I told her, and she's like, no, I'm full of cynicism. So okay, so on the one hand, like I go to her, on the one hand, I can kind of admire that you pushed for it in spite of you feeling it's futile. On the other, that kind of mentality comes with a steep price of not being able to see certain things. I can only imagine how many opportunities you've missed to make your luck journey easier. She never responded back to me on that. I mean, what could she say to that? Right? Because again, I just reinforced my whole thing that cynicism is useless, because cynicism believes that nothing's going to change, or maybe that it's comfortable that nothing's going to change. I'm an optimist by default because I don't know what real is, and cynicism's useless to me. So I'm an optimist by default. Things will work out. Now, they may not work out like I imagine they're going to work out, but they will work out, and I'm okay with that.
That's a good place to be at.
Yeah. Yep. Like I said, the whole world may go against me at some point. It's already kind of happened once. Might happen again. Who knows? But what I've learned is, again, you stand for what you stand for. You be who you are, and everything kind of just moves forward. That's just it. Miss Pat, before you wrap up, because I realize you're in between projects, I kind of want to say a couple things to you. So, Miss Sarcastica. So. Yeah, and that's what I called you, Miss Sarcastica. So here's the thing. I definitely would not be in the position I am without meeting people like you on the journey. I sincerely hope you do more books. You're a great writer. I know I'm not the only person. That has said that to you. I know someone like Tanya Hump, for example, is like, "Where's my books? Where's my books?" But at the same point, I'm actually going to leave you with a bit of a challenge.
Sure, bring it.
All right, I think you could do better than what you've done, and I think when you go back, I think you can do better than what you've done. I don't know what your goals, if you do go back to writing, what your goals are going to be, but I think you're great, and you should. I think you should go for what that deserves, right? Whether that's the big traditional deal, whether you decide to do like a giant ass Kickstarter and make $1 zillion that way, whatever goal, whatever path you choose, just my challenge to you is to push yourself to the best you can be.
Challenge accepted.
All right. So what do we promote here, Miss Pat? You're in between projects.
Yeah. Oh goodness.
So what do we promote here to wrap this up? I don't know at this moment in time. So,
well, I guess it's going to depend. Do you want something short? Do you want something long? Or do you want something less fictional?
I'm not particularly worried about that. I interview every kind of person on here. Here's what I'm gonna throw at you.
Yeah.
It's either your most recent, or what do you care about the most?
I'm going to say there are a couple of Rhonda Parrish anthologies. There's another person that you've met a few times, Rhonda Parrish, near and dear to our hearts. The reason why I think we should promote things like Sirens and Equus, and especially, I can't remember which Tesseract's book it was, but nevertheless, because those three stories are near and dear to my heart. Rhonda is near and dear to my heart. But also, it's a great way to explore other authors that are out there, be they Canadian or be they outside of Canada as well. Let's bump them up. You never know what you're going to find on the way, right?
That's good, but I want something from you.
Well, my stories are in there. All right. Well, you still have the Helix series, my 4-book Helix trilogy,
which is currently downstairs in my to-be-read pile. At least the second book. I read the first book. I got books too. I found them in my storage locker before my storage locker got broken into. I actually found them. And so of all the books I have left to grab, so I have a pile of Sarcastica stuff, including your Steve to be read. So.
Well, they're still near and dear to my heart too. But yeah, I would definitely say if you're looking to complete reading your TBR pile from Sarcastica, yes, go with the 4-book Helix trilogy. It's
yes, that's right, folks. 4 books Helix trilogy. And how can people find you?
Oh, lots of different ways. Well, actually, not as many as before. Facebook is probably still the best way. I've got my fanbook page still open. Facebook fan page, however that works out.
I'm not cool. I'm not cool. So don't.
I'm not that cool. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on Switch. I'm very, very boring on LinkedIn. But if you're looking for the books, Amazon's #1 way. You can go to Taiki Books as well, directly to the publisher. Great way of supporting Taiki and Margaret Kirilis. Yeah, that's basically it. Yep, there's the link right there.
So there we go, folks. I almost did it right. I got an apostrophe at the end. I got like a little dash thingy there at the end.
Yeah, I see it.
There we go. Let's do it right. Let's do it right.
There we go. That's the best way to follow all the really crazy things that I'm doing.
Just remember, Pat, they gave me an award for this podcast a long time ago. So they think they knew what I was doing. They're like, how little do they know, or maybe how much do they know? Who knows? So, folks, if you guys are interested, I do an advertising service. Basically, I do videos, audios, words, and pictures about your projects and yourselves, fiction, nonfiction. It does not matter to me. If you're definitely trying to look to get yourself out there, I definitely can help you do that. I can save some time and build you something that'll actually tell a good story about your story. And that, folks, will do it for this week. I got some fun guests next week. I'll get to those another day. But for Pat, I just want to say thanks for everybody watching, everybody listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. And I'll see you next time.